Welcome back to ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. This is Movies You Can Learn From, where George, Casen, and me, we go through these movies that are usually very, very interesting. And the one tonight is, it's not a movie so much as a series, and it had a very long run as a series. 9 seasons it had, and I never knew about it, and it caught me by surprise, and I started watching it, and my wife started watching it. We really couldn't put it down. It's about a law firm and a lawyer and a bunch of people who, interrelate in the law firm and how they have their cases and their challenges and their problems and their politics and what have you. But I have never seen another series like this one about lawyers and law firms. So let's get the lay of the land here from George. George, give us the environment. How does this thing organize itself?
This displays the interactions in a high-power New York law firm in Manhattan. And it shows different players. It opens up with there's a party or something of all these staff, and they're all pretty much talking to each other. And there's this one pretty sneaky guy, Lewis Litt is the Hoffman plays it, Rick Hoffman. But he's pretty sneaky, and he's sort of looking over everybody. And then you have this attorney, Harvey Specter. Yeah, Harvey Specter, played by Gabriel Macht, who's really good. He's really plays this role. I mean, you get into you start to dislike these people because they're so good at acting. And he's like a kind of up-and-coming young attorney, wants to move up in the firm. And he's a player, This one of their clients is having problems. So not happy with how they're handling. So this Gabriel Macht actor, he's playing Harvey Specter. He sort of lies to him and to get him off, and he's not being honest with the client, but the client backs off initially, right? And then the client finds out he was lying, and then there's the proverbial, what hits the fan, right? And then you have this woman who's taking over the firm, played by something. What was her name? Pearson, but forgot.
I have it on the screen. Gina Torres.
Yeah, Gina Torres
plays Jessica Pearson.
Yeah, she's really good too. She plays the role to a T. So you've got the main three players are Mike Ross, who's a young, really smart young guy, hasn't gone to law school, but because he's so brilliant, has a photographic memory, he was able to pass the bar, and this Mike Ross, played by Patrick Adams, he was like a drug dealer. He's helping one of his friends who's a drug dealer. They sell marijuana and stuff. And he was getting followed by the police, right? So he runs into this law firm, and then he's just in that room where prospective young attorneys are going to be hired, and he gets called in, and this Harvey Specter is the one who's interviewing him. And what happens in the interaction is that he never went to law school, but he's brilliant. He knows everything in the legal codes and everything, like in the back of his mind. So finally, it transpires that Harvey Specter does hire him, even though he doesn't have a law degree. And a lot of this goes through that. And then he's given a pro bono case with this young woman who was being sexually harassed by her employer. And he was able to eventually win that case for her. So, this young guy never went to law school. So it gets interesting. And then you get different players and back and forth and different cases and stuff. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Showing this young guy, so smart, never went to law school.
Yeah, it's kind of a dream movie for lawyers.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the inside of a high-powered midtown firm.
Yeah.
With very high-powered Harvard graduates. And it's a classy firm. And the people involved are classy. And what makes it so interesting is the writing. I wasn't nearly as sympathetic to the screenwriters' union walkout a few weeks ago until after I started watching this. And then I realized, you can write and then you can write. They really wrote on this one. Every word of it is handpicked. Every comment is so much intellectual property involved in this thing about how they relate to each other, the kinds of things they say to each other, what they say to judges and adverse lawyers. It's truly remarkable. I don't know if the world is really like that. This is sort of taken to another level.
Yes.
So, yeah. but I mean, it's fascinating for a lawyer to see the inside of a firm like this and try to understand, what makes it tick. It starts out as a very successful firm, but it isn't always. Let me tell you that as you get on to the, downline episodes, it's not as successful. 9 years of episodes. So anyway, the Gabriel Macht, is it?
Yeah,
who plays Harvey Specter? He's hypnotic. I mean, the way he walks and talks, the way he holds himself, it's hypnotic. You can't take your eyes off the man. He's so powerful, and he's young, and he's a combination of arrogance and brilliance. And at the same time, you see him as a human being too. So he's a really interesting character. As I say, the people who wrote this and conceived of these characters are truly amazing. They deserve awards. I think they got awards. Patrick Adams plays Mike Ross. And wow, he's also transfixing. Here's a guy who rides his bike to work and draws down this enormous salary when he gets there. He's a drug dealer, and all of a sudden he's a partner in downline episodes in the firm. By the way, I don't think that he took the bar. I think he could have taken the bar. What he did? Remember, he took the bar for other people.
Other people. Yeah.
He made his living taking the LSAT, the law school qualification test, and they paid him for it. That's how smart he was. He never went to law school or anything, and then he passes himself off as a Harvard lawyer, and all these people are always wondering, but they never catch him. He admits this to a few people, and now there's a secret. And this whole series is all about secrets and lies. Yeah. And, I don't know if you believe that lawyers are always like this, but in this firm, they all have secrets from each other, and they all have lies. They're all deceiving each other, every single one of them. My favorite, I have two favorites here, was Donna Paulson. She was Specter's secretary, redhead, played by Sarah Rafferty. She was unbelievable. Boy, I'd like to have a secretary like that. She knew everything. She listened to everything that happened in the firm, and she helped him and saved him every day, every moment. And there really are secretaries like that. They save their bosses. They are worth their weight in gold. And that's the secretary that she played. I love the way they structured her character. She was so powerful. And as you said, Megan, who is referred to in the cast of characters, she's the Duchess of, what is it? The Duchess of something, Sussex. That's what they say. Megan, Duchess of Sussex. She doesn't have a last name anymore, but we know she's Meghan Markle, right? And in this series, which went from 2011 to 2018 or 19, exactly right. 19, I guess. She is really, in terms of the most beautiful woman on the screen. So she was a paralegal trying to go to law school. Everybody wants to go to law school. She was really a central figure here because she was Mike Ross's love interest, but she was also a mainstay in the firm. She was the moral suasion in the firm. She's the one who couldn't lie, didn't like to lie. Yeah. And that made her different from everybody else there. Honest. I must say, she was a critical piece of this. And I kept thinking, George, this is interesting. I kept thinking that Harry must have watched this series. Harry must have seen her and fell in love with her on television, because I believe that he started dating her at the end of the throw. But you mentioned before the show began Rick Hoffman. Rick Hoffman is actually a lawyer. He's actually a litigator. And I think he went to a good school and all that. And he is such a nutcake. I'm telling you, he was out of his mind in this series. He was the one guy that needed help. Professional help. I love the way he handled that role. He was the role. I'm sure he created the role, the way he walked and talked and dumped on everybody and lied to them. You could see him, as an expression of evil.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He plays that role so good. You actually get to dislike him because he's playing that role. And then somewhere I read about him, he eventually was into medicine. He went to medical school and then must have switched into law, But how they end up, on the stage and in a movie, and how they, some of them don't start off in acting, sort of drift that way. Yeah, but he played that role good. Rick Hoffman from Long Island, from Rosslyn Heights. Yeah. So
there you go.
he was from Long Island, because you and I both come from that area.
I never knew anybody like this. Yeah. I mean, he was so obnoxious. He was the very picture of obnoxious. Exactly. You don't get any more obnoxious than this character. And when you found a little humanity in him, just a little spark of humanity, 10 minutes later, he was doing something awful again.
I don't know anyone like him either, but I'm sure in some law firms there are people like that. Dog eat dog, cutthroat competition. He's trying to cut Harvey Specter, because Harvey Specter's in line for a promotion, and that's why he was interviewing Mike Ross, the Patrick Adams character, right? Because he was going to be promoted, and then he lost that. Because the client found out he was lying to him, and the Pearson, the head woman.
Pearson is the name partner in the firm.
Yes.
And it's really interesting that what was the name of the firm? Somebody in Pearson.
Pearson something, yeah.
What happens here is that there's another guy who was stealing from the firm back when. Now you haven't seen this set of episodes. He was stealing, and they threw him out, but they kept his name on there. And so she was, part of the name of the firm. And he comes back. I don't have to tell you, he comes back and makes trouble. So Gina Torres, Jessica Pearson, she is tall and black and beautiful.
Yes.
And smart like a whip. All these people could be the characters they are portraying. They could easily slide into, the characters they are structuring for you. Now, Rick Hoffman could easily be, the Lewis Lit that he portrays. All of them. And I don't know how you get there as a director or an actor, but all of these characters so genuine. All of these actors are portraying characters they really believe in. They understand the character. There's brilliance in the way they set this up. That's why it lasted 9 years. And that's why, it changed. New situations, new challenges, new solutions. Year after year, episode after episode. They really kept it going by a lot of fresh creativity all through that time. You never get tired of it, honestly.
They did their homework, or they're familiar with people who practice in these kind of Manhattan law firms, high-power law firms. So they're the screenwriter and the director, they have a familiarity. And as we've talked about in other reviews, they did their homework. They knew what they were wishing to portray, and they did a superb job. It was just this, just watching the pilot, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you've been to you're an attorney, so you went to law school. I only went that 1 year, so I'm not as familiar with you, but as you are, But you pretty much understood how good this is, how real they're giving you the real story about how some of these New York law firms operate, the internal things going on.
Yeah, and there were people in law school who were, what will I say, brilliant beyond brilliant. They were so brilliant, you knew you'd never, get close to them. Nobody would get close to them. And so this character who doesn't go to law school, he's the kind of guy that could have been a fabulous lawyer. And even without law school, he is. He is. And I think it's a premise that's entirely possible. Remember in up till 1928, George, you could read for the bar.
Yep.
You never had to go to law school. All you had to do was be in the law office and do research, and after a while you could take the bar on that basis. And it was very interesting in those days. So in this case, you have this kind of nostalgic look back on the way it was for really smart people who didn't really have to go to law school. They became lawyers. And in other countries too, you can become a lawyer without going to law school. You can study law, as a college degree, and presto, you're a lawyer. So in this case, though, there's an awful lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about. I like the architecture, by the way. I hope you appreciated the interior design of this law firm. It was really wonderful. That's a big selling point for a client, isn't it?
Had he also gone to Harvard Law School? I think he had, right?
I think he had.
And he was looking for another Harvard,
They all were. All of the characters, all of the named partners, all of the players in this thing all went to, quote, Harvard Law School, except Mike Ross, who said he went to Harvard Law School, but who didn't. He was just trying to escape from the police. It was fortuitous, and he took advantage of the opportunity. The question, I suppose, is, what do we learn from this? Because although it's, it's fictitious, it's also built on true facts and true situations. And that's why it's so interesting to a lawyer to watch it. And it should be interesting to everybody to see how they operate. Because, if you know how they operate, not to say it's going to teach you everything, but if you know how they operate, then you can deal better with them. Then you understand them. You understand what they can do for you, what they can't do for you, and how you can manage them. And I think there's a lot of lessons in this series that helps the public deal with lawyers who are high flyers. What else do we learn from the series?
Well, the first thing I ask is, how do you feel this is real? I mean, that the interactions, the treacherous, the way they deal with each other treacherously, is that in those high?
I think it's exaggerated, yeah. But the basic nature of a law firm, people think, oh yeah, law firm, easy, they all love each other. No. There's always politics in the law firm, and you become a partner, you have to campaign for it and have to do well and all that. I mean, it's not so simple. And to hold on to a client, you have to plan a campaign on a client. To get a client, you have to campaign. And especially when you're talking about, $1 billion clients, which were, plenty of those in this series. So although it's exaggerated, it's fictionalized, the basic concepts were all pretty much instructive. And to me, that's why it's so interesting. Most lawyers haven't been in a firm like this hypothetical firm. Most lawyers haven't had the experiences these guys are telling us about, but they've seen pieces of it. And they've seen suggestions that maybe for some people it works this way. And so it makes it very interesting for a lawyer. And it also, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Of course, it's fiction.
Yeah, as you say, it gives you sort of a window into how the internal works, in these law firms for the general public to get a better handle. And, in the later episodes, I'm sure they get into a lot of different situations.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to believe sometimes. And here's a lawyer that's doing a sexual abuse case one day, and then he's doing a multi-billion-dollar merger the next day, and he's talking about winning both. This is Spectre I'm talking about. Yeah. Winning both cases. Yeah. Talking about the Rick Hoffman character, Louis Litt, beating up on associates. He would never survive in any firm if he did that. Not today. They would walk out on him. What I'm saying is that lawyers are specialists like doctors, and although there are, what do you call it, the ones who are rainmakers, right? They talk to all clients about all matters, and then they refer that client to a specialist either in their firm or somehow associated with their firm. But they're not masters of all trades. They have to find specialists. They have to be specialists, and that's the one thing that threw me off on this. They never really settled down on who was specializing in what, and it seemed like anything that walked in the door, as long as it had money written on it, that they would take that, and somehow they would find the competence to do it. But in terms of the mechanics, the way they dumped on the associates and gave them project at the last minute, and then took credit if the associate did well, and blamed the associate if the associate did not do well. That's all real.
Exactly. Like Gina Torres had told Harvey Specter that to absolve yourself, you've got to do a pro bono case. So she gave him this case with the sexual harassment. And secretly, he pawns it off to Mike Ross, the brilliant non-Harvard, non-law school guy. And then he's sort of just looking over his shoulder, Mike Ross's shoulder, as Mike Ross is handling it. So, that was another thing, so Harvey Specter, sort of dishonest, and then when she finds out that he's not handling the case, that he gave it to someone else because he wants to do something that's going to make money or whatever, she got upset with him, and she was going to can him. And then he threatened her with that she hadn't reported him initially to the legal, police, So she keeps him on.
It's more than the legal police. I mean, if he had been caught,
disbarred.
No, more than that. Impersonating a lawyer, I think that's a crime. These stories that these guys came up with, the scriptwriters for all these people, they're all, except for Meghan Markle. She's the only exception.
Yeah.
They're all doing deception on each other, and holding secrets from each other. She's the only one who's an innocente, and she holds the moral lamp. Maybe that's why Harry liked her so much.
I mean, my parents' attorney, Joe Stern, he was above board, clean as they come, So they're not all like this, So I think it is a little bit of a jading here to get the audience interested. They're going to be real bad.
Yeah, what are these lawyers doing? It comports with all the mythology around how lawyers are dishonest.
It just makes you...
In a real law firm, you wouldn't find this kind of dishonesty.
They've made it more than it really is, to draw in the audience. Not all attorneys are like it. I'm sure that even in these high-powered New York, Manhattan law firms, that not to that level,
Not to that level. I mean, there are lots of stories, but not to that level. But, so what I get out of it is what they were holding the audience with in this whole series is the secrets. I mean, for example, Ross, the genius boy, he does have to tell people about it because they spot him. But he retains the secret mostly, and he's afraid, he's worried, he's stressed out, but he keeps practicing, and successfully so. Gabriel Macht has a backstory. Harvey Specter, I liked him a lot. I liked him because of his not arrogance, but his confidence, his level of confidence. He was always on it and always successful, mostly. But he had a backstory. Donna Paulson's backstory was that she was in love with Harvey Specter and had given it up. Too many years had gone by, and she wasn't going to pursue that anymore. But you wanted her to. You wanted her to find what she thought she lost in him. Rick Hoffman and Louis Litt, you never really found out who the man was. He was just a nutcase, brilliant nutcase, like a Rain Man, like a Dustin Hoffman, brilliant, could do anything, but he was crazy. And he plays it so well.
But, for me, Jay, Meghan Markle, she kept my attention. She is just so beautiful and so elegant, and everything, the way she moves and everything. That was, that sort of, for me, that was what I kept my attention on. And she played that role so well, being the only honest person in that firm, So to me, that role that she played was the primary one, even equal to Harvey Specter's role and Mike Ross's role. So yeah, she did very, very good acting.
Because they were all totally excellent. They were all convincing. But I have to tell you one story you don't know. There's one character, and I'm looking at her picture now in the cast. She plays the role of Katrina Bennett, a troublemaker in the firm, a very ambitious young woman in the firm. A lot of ambitious people in this series. She's played by Amanda Scholl. Amanda Scholl is a local girl. Amanda Scholl is the daughter of Gunnar Scholl, who was a lawyer with the Caves firm here on Bishop Street.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and she left town to become a ballet dancer. And you can imagine how good she looks. And here she is in this knockout performance from Hawaii.
That's always interesting when there's someone from Hawaii that, like Travolta's wife, Kelly Preston, passed away. And Bette Midler, I think, was one.
Bette Midler is from Aiea. Yeah,
there's a whole, and of course Obama, ended up in the presidency, even though his political career was all in Illinois.
He didn't spend too much time thinking about Hawaii. But let's go to Mark's here. Some reason, the ratings that I saw, I don't mind telling you this, were not in the 9s and 10s. They were in the 8s and the 8.5s. And, with all that you and I have discussed in the past half hour, I wonder where you are. Are you in the 8s or the 9s or what? Where do you rate this series?
I'll give it a 9 because of the window it presents, but it's sort of choppy at times, It's definitely not a 10, maybe 8.5 to a 9, but give it the benefit of the doubt because of, the screenwriters did their homework. So I'll give it a 9. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's what
I do. It fascinated me, and it fascinated my wife. So I would give it a 9. I don't think I'd go higher than a 9, and I don't think I'd go lower either, simply because I learned a lot, and I felt that this was an inside window that I hadn't seen, although it was exaggerated as fiction is. It was very instructive, and it was also entertaining. The script was really, really terrific. So I'd give it a 9 too, George. I hate to agree with you like this. Yeah. I kick myself whenever I do agree with you.
About that,
okay. Yeah, you should apologize.
But, we both have had some experience in that whole theatrical scene. I think you've also had some experience, so you can sort of assess it from that kind of a perspective rather than just purely a layman's perspective. How well this was done and how its pluses and its drawbacks. So we've rated everything from I think down to 7 up to a 10 plus. So each of these, there's different, some really, really good, and there's always pluses and minuses for each of these productions. So
thank you so much for joining me on this discussion, on all these discussions. I so enjoy watching the movie and then comparing notes with you about it. Thanks a lot, George.
Same here.
Thanks so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please click on the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And please check out our website. That's thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.